My relationship with Clara had been complicated for a while, but it reached its breaking point over her mentorship of a scholarship student named Ethan. She had become increasingly insistent that I allow him to use my laboratory for an experiment he was conducting. She would bring it up repeatedly, suggesting that his research was critical for his impending graduation, and that my state-of-the-art facility was his only real option. "Leo, since when did you become so possessive over your work?" she'd ask, her tone a mixture of frustration and disappointment, hoping to guilt me into agreeing. This time, however, I refused to yield. It made no sense to me why a college undergraduate would require access to a lab equipped for groundbreaking pharmaceutical development just for a thesis project. I never imagined that my refusal would push her to be so reckless. I didn't expect that she would be audacious enough to take my keys from my jacket pocket while we were having dinner and then sneak Ethan into the facility behind my back. As was probably inevitable, something went terribly wrong. I returned late that evening to a scene of chaos, with emergency lights flashing against a plume of thick, black smoke. I found both of them standing just outside the perimeter, watching the flaming wreckage of what was once my life's work. The lab was a disaster, a blackened shell of its former self. "Leo, I didn't mean for this to happen," Clara stammered, her voice trembling. "I was right there with him. I thought nothing could go wrong." Ethan, standing beside her, quickly jumped in front of her as if to shield her. "Leo, you should blame me for this. Clara only did it to help my research," he declared, wiping tears from his face while trying to maintain a facade of strength. "I can't possibly pay you back for the damages now, but I promise I will make it up to you one day." I stared at the tear-streaked face of the young man Clara seemed to admire so much, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of contempt. There's an old saying about a man's tears being a woman's greatest weakness, and seeing him like this, I finally understood it. "Leo, just forget about it for now," Clara said, quickly moving to comfort Ethan. "Tell me what the damages are, and I'll wire the money to your account." As she prepared to lead him away from the scene, I reached out and firmly grabbed her arm, stopping her. "Leo, seriously? It's just a laboratory. I already said I'll pay you back. Do you really need the money that badly?" She smirked, her patience clearly wearing thin. "I think all those fumes have finally fried your brain. We're supposed to be getting engaged soon, yet you never spend any time with me. You only ever care about that lab. Have you given any thought to our future at all?" Her expression turned as cold as ice, and I felt a matching chill spread through me. The casual way she dismissed the destruction of years of work was staggering. "You're both intelligent enough to figure out how to sneak into a secure facility," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "But you seem to lack the basic sense of responsibility that should come with it." I pulled out my phone, my movements deliberate. First, I dialed the fire department. Then I called the police. "Neither of you is going anywhere tonight." My love for Clara had been a central part of my life for years, but it had started to wither the moment Ethan entered the picture. Ever since he arrived, she had been acting erratically, justifying her behavior as a youthful indulgence and complaining that we had lost our common ground. She called me old-fashioned and out of touch. At nearly 28 years old, she was far too old for such reckless immaturity. The deep ties between our families were the only reason I had postponed ending our relationship, but this incident was the final straw. "Leo, as my boyfriend, can't you just handle this quietly?" Clara scoffed, her disbelief turning to anger. "You're actually calling the cops? Do you want to see me arrested?" She threatened to call my parents, assuming they would take her side as they always had. "That might have worked before," I said coldly, "but not anymore. We're done." The smirk vanished from her face, replaced by shock. "Do you have any idea what you're saying? We grew up together, Leo. Our families are practically one. We've spent every single New Year's Eve together for as long as I can remember. And now you want to break up over this? Let's see if your parents or my mother agree with that decision. Clara's father had passed away in a car accident when she was young, and my parents had stepped in to help her family get back on their feet. Because of this history, both of our families were deeply invested in the idea of us getting engaged. "You've completely lost your mind over a stupid lab," she said, rolling her eyes in disgust. Ethan tried to de-escalate the situation. "Don't be angry, Clara. The lab must have meant a great deal to Leo. He spends more time in there than he does with you," he said, before turning his teary eyes back to me. "It's all my fault for messing up such a simple experiment. Clara was just trying to help me." He started to cry again, and the sight was almost comical. The fire department arrived swiftly and immediately got to work, their efficiency a stark contrast to the drama unfolding between us. A commanding voice cut through the noise. "Did someone call the police? Who's responsible for starting this?" I nodded and pointed directly at the duo standing beside me. "The suspects are right here. Thank you for handling the fire. Was there anything critical inside that you need to try and save?" The firefighter's professionalism was reassuring. I sighed, the weight of the loss hitting me all at once. Experimental medications for terminally ill patients. It was the only batch of its kind in existence. It's all gone now. Clara grumbled under her breath. "Can't you just make more? You're supposed to be some kind of genius, right?" The firefighter in the orange suit snapped at her, his patience gone. "Lives are at stake here. You're both adults, and you should have known better than to be so reckless." Ethan began to sob again. "Stop blaming Clara. It's all on me." The fireman scoffed at the display. "If our future was in the hands of people like you, our ancestors would be spinning in their graves." His stern gaze silenced Ethan, but Clara erupted in fury. "Which firehouse are you from? I'm going to report you for this. We are not criminals, so you can keep your opinions to yourself." Just then, the police arrived, and I waved them over. "These two right here," I said, my voice steady. "They stole my keys and blew up my private laboratory." The firefighter who had admonished them corroborated my story. "That's right, officer. It looks like this facility was full of experimental drugs and crucial research data. It's all been destroyed. The loss is immeasurable. These kinds of research achievements are priceless." The officer listened intently, his expression growing serious as he understood the gravity of the situation. It seemed the first responders and police in this district had worked together many times before. Upon hearing the firefighter's assessment, the police immediately moved to detain both Clara and Ethan. "Leo, how could you do this?" Clara cried out, struggling against the officer's grip. "What about your parents? My mother? What about our relationship?" She then turned to the officer, trying a different tactic. "Officer, this is all a huge misunderstanding. I'm his girlfriend, and he gave me the key himself. He even told me he wouldn't hold me responsible for anything that happened, and now he's going back on his word." Her blatant lies were so absurd, I couldn't help but laugh. "What relationship? The only relationship we have now is that of plaintiff and defendant. Just you wait until I sue you for damages. So many people were counting on those drugs. You've destroyed hope for countless families. Even as ghosts, they will never let you go." Clara tried to argue further, but the officer cut her off. "Whatever you have to say, you can save it for your official statement back at the station. If you're innocent, we'll deal with the person who filed a false report. But if you're guilty..." After taking photographs of the scene, the police led them away. As the primary victim, I was required to follow them to the station to give my own statement while they reviewed the surveillance footage. An officer later confirmed, "She claimed you two were dating, but based on our investigation, it's entirely up to you whether you want to settle this privately or press formal charges." After providing all the necessary information, I contacted my lawyer to begin preparing the case. "Thank you, officer. You've all worked very hard tonight," I said. "No worries," he replied. "As long as people need us, we'll be there." After a brief exchange, I called for the family driver to pick me up. As for Clara and Ethan, they would certainly be detained for the night, pending the investigation into the explosion. With all the original data destroyed, it would take at least a year and a half to restart the research from scratch, and that was only if I could utilize my 3 years of independent work to avoid the many potential missteps and errors along the way. The next day, Clara's mother managed to bail both her daughter and Ethan out of jail. She brought them straight to my family's home, storming in with an air of righteous indignation. "Your son has completely lost his mind," she announced to my parents. "He actually called the police on our Clara. I suppose there's no need to plan for a wedding at the end of the year. They've been dating for so long, and despite Leo being busy with his experiments all the time, Clara never once complained. Now he does this to her? It's like putting a mother's heart on a grill. How can I possibly trust my daughter's future with him?" In the past, my parents would have immediately sided with her and criticized me, reminding me that as a man, I was supposed to be more accommodating to my girlfriend. However, I had already called them before she arrived and explained everything that had happened. My mother simply said, "Then don't plan the wedding." My father scratched his head and sighed deeply. Young people today value their romantic freedom. We should let them decide these things for themselves. Clara was the first to snap, her face a mask of disbelief. She had always been my parents' favorite. "Uncle, Aunt, what do you mean by that? Did Leo tell you yesterday that he wanted to break up? Did you know about this in advance? Is there someone else?" Her voice rose with each question. "We've been together for 7 years since college, and he wants to end it just like that, without any consideration for my feelings." She began to cry, dabbing at her tears dramatically. Her mother was equally furious, having come to champion her daughter's cause. "Brother, sister-in-law, there has to be some kind of explanation for this. Clara's youth is priceless, and she has grown up under your watch. If people find out she's been with Leo for 7 years only to be dumped, who will ever want her?" How an investigation into felony property destruction had morphed into a relationship dispute was beyond me. I stopped my mother before she could speak on my behalf, determined to handle this myself while remaining respectful in front of our elders. "Clara and I have been together for 7 years. That's true. But for the last 3 of those years, she's been spending most of her time with Ethan. You can check the facts for yourself. Secondly, the laboratory she destroyed was incredibly important. She isn't a child anymore, and she must take responsibility for her actions. This relationship has reached its end. Parting ways amicably is the best possible outcome for everyone involved." Clara was clearly unwilling to accept this. "Anyone else can slander me, but not you, Leo. You have no idea how much I love you. I've followed you since we were children. I even went to the same college and chose the same major as you. How can you dismiss all of my efforts with just a few words? Now, just because your lab is gone and your path to fame has been delayed, you want to kick me to the curb? I'm telling you, there is no way that's happening." Her eyes were bloodshot as she stared at me with pure anger. Unexpectedly, Ethan suddenly dropped to his knees, right in the middle of our living room. He knelt directly in front of me, despite Clara's attempts to pull him back up. "Leo, Clara supported me in my studies and my research, and I truly appreciate it. Both of you are my seniors, but I swear there is nothing going on between her and me. Only you are worthy of Clara. I take full responsibility for the lab explosion. I don't want such a small issue to affect your engagement." If Clara hadn't been holding him back, I was certain he would have performed a full kowtow. I watched his little drama unfold with cold detachment. Who did he think he was sending off with that display? Was I his elder or his ancestor? Performing such a ritual in broad daylight was terribly inauspicious. An enraged Clara slapped me hard across the face, and I didn't even try to block it. Without that slap, my parents might have softened their hearts, and tried to persuade me to reconsider. My left cheek stung fiercely, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the ache in my heart. So much data, so much potential, all gone in a single, careless explosion. We had gotten together mostly because of Clara's persistence, bolstered by the matchmaking efforts from both of our parents. I had laid out my terms clearly back then. "Clara," I had told her, "I'll be busy with research constantly and won't always be there for you. You'll find it unbearable." Yet she had insisted, asking only if I had her in my heart. "If you do," she had said, "I fear nothing. Love can conquer all obstacles, Leo. I believe we'll always be together, and no one can tear us apart." Later, when she began sponsoring Ethan, she started taking him along to our meals and the rare dates we managed to have. I think she felt trapped by her own grand promises from the past. Honestly, if she had simply wanted to be with someone else, I would have wished her well. Beyond being lovers, we were also partners who had shared a long history. I genuinely wanted her to find happiness. But today's slap had shattered that thin layer of civility between us completely. Clara's mom dragged her aside, frustrated. "How could you slap Leo? What's going to happen when you two are married if this is how you treat each other?" she hissed, glancing nervously over at my parents, whose expressions had also become grim. My mother spoke, her voice measured but firm. "You suggested canceling the engagement earlier, and I think we should just go with that. If the children don't get along, there's no point in forcing them. Of course, the business collaboration between our families will continue." My mom was trying to be considerate, but Clara's mother was having none of it. "How can we still work together when your son is taking my daughter to court? If she ends up with a criminal record, how is she supposed to get married?" I replied, my voice devoid of emotion. "There's no law that requires a plaintiff to be responsible for a defendant's future, is there? I warned her not to mess with the lab. She needs to own up to her actions." "But your lab injured my Clara," she countered. "Leo, I've watched you grow up, and this is not the right way to treat people." I suddenly felt like we were speaking different languages. Perhaps I had been so focused on my experiments all these years that I had neglected to truly see the people around me. It was now crystal clear that Clara and her mother were cut from the same cloth. If her mom had an ounce of consideration, she would have come to apologize, not demand an explanation. Without our family's help after her husband died, her relatives would have pushed them out of the city long ago. Clara had hurt herself while stealing my keys to trespass. She had to face the consequences of that. What responsibility did I have in the matter? Clara's mom pressed on, confident in her position. "You're her boyfriend. You can't deny that." Clara nodded in agreement. "But as my girlfriend," I countered, turning their logic back on them, "she snuck another man into my lab and caused a catastrophic event. Is that what being a girlfriend is about? Is that how someone behaves in a relationship?" Clara became incensed. "What do you mean by another man, Leo? You're spreading lies about me, and I could sue you for slander." I calmly explained. "But you did sneak another man into my lab. That is a fact, and the police have a record of it. Didn't you study humanities? Any man who is not me is, by definition, another man, correct?" I emphasized the last two words. "Ethan is a student I sponsor. Aren't you just picking on him because he's from a poor background?" she insisted. "Strictly speaking," I continued, "sponsoring someone means offering financial aid. Your support seems to be quite comprehensive, covering his food, clothing, housing, and transportation. Even when we have dinner, you bring him along. Were you planning to have him move in with us after we got married, Clara? I never expected you to be so capable of fooling yourself." I laughed and shook my head in disbelief. "Leo," Clara's mom interjected. "Clara said he's just a student she sponsors. The kid even got on his knees and apologized. They're being sincere, so don't blow things out of proportion. Let's just end this here." "As your elder, I'm making the decision," she said, waving her hand dismissively as if she were being magnanimous. Before she could finish, my father shook his head. They are both over 20 years old. Why should an elder be making decisions for them? This is not some petty dispute. Annoyed, she retorted, "So what do you want as compensation? Just name your price." I was direct. "Auntie, even handing over your entire company wouldn't be enough to cover the loss. The data from that experiment was crucial for saving many lives. Clara and Ethan blew up the lab, and restarting the experiment means some people won't get their medication in time and will likely die. She cannot shoulder that responsibility." "Peter, that's absurd," Amanda snapped. "They might not have been able to afford the medicine even if it was available. Their deaths have nothing to do with me." She received a sharp glare from her mom, telling her to shut up. "But you can't put all the blame on my daughter," her mom insisted. "Just tell me what she needs to pay for you to drop the charges." Ethan, who had been silent and downcast this whole time, suddenly looked up in horror. He tugged at Clara's sleeve, and she quickly caught on. "Mom, Ethan is a student I sponsor. I can't just abandon him." Her mom replied curtly, "Then you pay for him." Watching their internal conflict was almost enough to make me laugh. "We can settle this privately," I finally said, "but on one condition. From this moment on, our families have nothing to do with each other, and you will stop bothering me." Clara was reluctant, but with her mother pressuring her, she had no other choice but to agree. After they left, my parents were still visibly upset. "You insisted on helping them all those years ago," my dad said, his hands on his hips as he frowned at my mother. "And now our son has to pay the price for it. What do you have to say for yourself now?" My mom sniffed, feeling wronged. "I didn't know Clara would turn out like this. It's all my fault." I shook my head and reassured her. "Mom, it's fine. Your choice to help them back then showed your kindness, and I'm proud to have a mother like you. You've also supported my research from the very beginning. And Dad, don't be mad at Mom. Didn't you always teach me that those destined for great things must first endure hardship?" Given the situation, all we could do was try to make amends. Dwelling on anger and sadness wouldn't solve anything. "I'll start looking for a new, qualified lab immediately. It would be great if I could find some skilled researchers to join me as well. We can use the compensation money to hire them. If we can mass-produce this wonder drug, the impact would be unimaginable. It would change the world. So many sick people in our country who can't afford the exorbitant prices of foreign drugs wouldn't have to consider ending their own lives because of technological monopolies. I've bought some of those drugs before. They're just stopgaps that you have to take long-term just to keep holding on. Research aimed at saving lives has never been about making money. That was never our goal." I had my lawyer calculate a settlement amount and send it to Clara's mother. I never expected the chaos that would follow. The next thing I knew, my name was trending online. "Research genius Leo dumps 7-year girlfriend after she hinders his fame." The headlines were filled with accusations against me, claiming I broke up with her because she was holding me back, and that I was suing her just to stop her from harassing me. The same set of facts, twisted by a sensationalist media account, had become an entirely different story. My father immediately had his team investigate the source. They would protect my reputation no matter the cost. It was obviously Clara's mother's doing. She wanted to ruin my reputation simply because I broke up with her daughter. "Dad, get the lawyer to sue that media account and hold everyone involved responsible," I said. My dad nodded grimly. "Not only that, I think it's time we ended our business partnership with her company." My mom agreed strongly. "Exactly. After everything we've done for them, they backstab us. It's like that fable of the farmer and the snake. Years of friendship destroyed just like that." I sighed. "It's good to see their true colors now. Better late than never. After handing the legal matters over to them, I called my assistant, Sam, and we headed out to scout a new lab. Clara, somehow knowing my whereabouts, ambushed me there. "Leo, I had no idea my mom would do that. It wasn't my fault. I didn't want to break up, but you forced my hand. Can't you just let Ethan off the hook? I'll pay you back in installments. You're going to ruin his life. He's about to graduate, and a prison sentence will destroy his future. Did you know his family is incredibly poor? His father passed away a few years ago, and he only has his mother left. You'll be destroying an entire family," she pleaded earnestly, trying to hand me a cup of coffee. It suddenly occurred to me that Clara had been in the research field before she gave it up for a life of luxury, so it wasn't entirely surprising that she knew I was searching for a new facility. "How is it that you feel no guilt for indirectly ruining the lives of countless families, but you're so concerned about his?" I asked. "Ethan is doing research to benefit others later in life, isn't he?" she argued. "Leo, he has the same dreams you do. You shouldn't be so quick to write off your junior." She frowned and sighed. "You care so much about life, but you can destroy a family just like that? Without Ethan earning money, his mother will be left to die. You have a mother too, you know." Ignoring her twisted justifications for Ethan's actions, I was stunned by her logic. Staring at this woman, who stood almost 2 heads shorter than me, I remembered her ambition back in college. "Leo," she used to say, "I want to work with you, finish our research, and save so many lives." Looking back, the hardships I was enduring now seemed insignificant in the face of that dream. Life was supposed to be about finding meaning through experience. Whenever she had free time, she would sign up with me to volunteer and help others. At some point, I lost track of when she had changed. Perhaps she had just been following my lead all along and never realized it wasn't what she truly wanted. Now she was living the high life with Ethan by her side, and she was probably content. I shouldn't let myself get dragged down into their lifestyle. It felt cramped and suffocating. Besides, I had far more important things to do. I was about to speak, but Sam chuckled beside me. "Clara, with all that false reasoning, it's a shame you're not on a debate team. Let's stick to the facts. Ethan is a college student doing research for a thesis, right? That's not exactly saving humanity. Instead, his selfish actions destroyed Leo's years of dedicated research. And you, as his girlfriend, sided with someone else. Leo is absolutely right to break up with you." Clara glared at him. "Is it your place to interject while we're talking? You're not involved in this, so what do you know?" I gave my assistant a look, signaling him to avoid escalating the argument. "I'm the one involved," I said, my tone final. "And here's the deal. I will not withdraw the lawsuit. Ethan can share the blame with you. If he ends up in jail, that's his own undoing. Hurting others only ends up harming yourself. He wrecked my work, and I will not forgive him. Negotiating with you at all is only out of respect for our past friendship, but that does not mean I forgive you." With that, I grabbed Sam's arm, and we started to leave. Clara tried to stop us, but 2 grown men were not about to be held back by her. All I heard was her angry shouting behind us. "Leo, you've gone too far. My mom was right about you. Your reputation deserves to be ruined. I regret liking you all these years." If this was what being liked by her led to, then I'd rather we had never met. The lab hunt went smoothly, and my dad's legal team quickly cleared up the online rumors about me. Their response was swift and decisive. They announced the end of all partnerships with Clara's family's company that very day, making it clear that future deals were also off the table. Clara's mother dared to cause a scene at my family's company headquarters. I rushed over as soon as I heard. When I arrived, she was being blocked by security, but refused to leave, crying loudly for all to hear. "You're bullying us! How can a big company like yours pick on a widow and her child? Back when my husband passed away, you promised you would support us, but now your son, Your precious boy has dumped my daughter after 7 years of dating. Is there any justice left in this world?" She was screaming, causing quite a commotion and drawing a large crowd of our employees. Our company was known for its great benefits and was a highly sought-after place to work. So, naturally, it was staffed by reasonable people. One of them spoke up. "Ma'am, that's completely unreasonable. We all know what your daughter did, and you're the one spreading rumors online. That's just malicious." Another chimed in. "Right. If there's no justice, where should my family go for help? Trying to drag others down after years of our company sending a lot of business your way? You have some nerve to pull a stunt like this. Are you insane?" "Security," another employee called out. "You're doing a great job. Please escort her out before she upsets our chairman's wife." Seeing that no one was on her side, Clara's mother feigned unconsciousness, clearly trying to stir up public sympathy. If she fainted inside our company building, it would be difficult to explain. But she underestimated today's youth. They had brains, and besides, there were plenty of witnesses and surveillance cameras. An ambulance quickly arrived and took her away. Out of a lingering sense of compassion, I contacted Clara and told her to pay the hospital bills. Who would have thought she would show up to hold me accountable for it? "Leo, are you even human?" she demanded. "How could you upset an elder who watched you grow up until she fainted? This is definitely your family's fault, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it." She glared at me with pure hatred in her eyes. I just nodded. "Do you own the police station now? How can you convict someone without a crime? You must think you're above the law. Clara, have things been too easy for you your whole life? Do you not realize your own limitations? We are handling this diplomatically, but if you're unwilling to cooperate, then let's forget about any reconciliation. You can go reflect on your actions in jail." Clara was too angry to respond and stormed off in embarrassment. I thought she would finally calm down, but she showed up the next day with Ethan to confront me again. After Sam and I finished inspecting a potential new lab, we headed out, only to find 2 figures blocking our path. Ethan immediately dropped to his knees in front of me, while Clara stood to the side, recording the whole thing on her phone. "Leo, please show some mercy," Ethan begged. "My mom is bedridden and can't take care of herself. I can't lose my only family." Clara watched. Her eyes filled with tears, while simultaneously threatening me. "Leo, if you insist on not reconciling, I'll have no choice but to expose everything you've done. You better think this through. Isn't your heart moved at all by his pitiful situation? I do have compassion, but I'm not a saint. Are you trying to elevate me to sainthood? If your actions lead to a public backlash against me, I will continue the lawsuit. It's just a bit of money. Do I look like I'm short on cash?" Clara scoffed indifferently. I pointed her out to Ethan. "You hear that? Your dear Clara has plenty of money. If it wasn't for her stealing the key to let you in, you wouldn't be facing a lawsuit and jail time. She should be the one helping you, not me. After all, we're not family. And since you had a relationship with my girlfriend, albeit now my ex-girlfriend, asking me for help is pointless. Have the woman spend some money and settle it. A man's dignity is priceless. Don't kneel so casually," I chuckled dismissively. Ethan's gaze immediately turned to Clara, leaving her flustered. She urgently explained, "Ethan, Leo is asking for $5 million. Our family is wealthy, but cash is tight right now. My mom won't give me any more money. And even if I sell all my designer bags and jewelry, it still won't be enough. You have to understand my situation." Ethan nodded tearfully. Taking advantage of the moment, my assistant and I quickly got into our car and left. If Ethan were truly as harmless as he pretended to be, I wouldn't have uttered those words. Clara's karma, it seemed, was probably Ethan himself. A leech she had failed to recognize. Upon investigation, I discovered that Ethan's father had died in an accident, with the insurance payout going directly to him, netting him over $1 million. But when his mother was suddenly paralyzed, the money quickly disappeared into hospital bills. Desperate for a sponsor, he latched onto Clara. Conveniently, his father's accident had occurred just 1 month after purchasing the life insurance policy. I didn't buy it for a second. I decided to take a gamble. With the trial approaching, Ethan was becoming unsettled. One day, Clara's house was robbed, with many valuable antiques and pieces of jewelry missing. Yet, strangely, Clara chose not to call the police. As I expected, Ethan somehow pulled together the $5 million and sought me out to reconcile. Clara accompanied him. "You've got the money now. Sign the settlement," Ethan demanded, no longer timid. Clara looked uneasy. "Ethan, no matter how you got the money, I hope you'll study hard in the future." "Of course, Clara. You're the best person I've ever met," David said without an ounce of guilt. Feigning curiosity, I chuckled. "Clara, did you ever catch the thief? That was a big deal, and you didn't even call the cops." Clara gave me a dark look. "They only wanted money, not our lives. It means they were desperate, and there's a reason for everything. You'd better just sign the settlement." I decided to delay, first asking for a glass of water, then for something to eat. Clara and her entourage thought I was just being difficult, but I was actually waiting for Clara's mother to arrive. She was in the hospital and was completely unaware of this major incident. How could her own daughter hide it from her? Soon enough, Clara's mother showed up with the police. "Here's the thief," she declared, pointing at Ethan. "Mom, what are you saying? This money was a loan to Ethan," Clara started to explain, but her words faded as her mother slapped her. "This was hard-earned money from your father and me, including the diamond ring from his proposal. Your father is gone, and this is how you repay the mother who raised you?" She burst into tears. Clara didn't seem to think it was a big deal. "Mom, isn't calling the cops a bit much? We can just get the things back, right? Besides, if you had just agreed to pay Ethan's compensation in the first place, he wouldn't have been pushed to steal." Ethan, who was being held by the police nearby, was now glaring at Clara with dark, piercing eyes, like a snake in the woods waiting to strike its prey. Clara didn't seem to realize the gravity of what she had just said and was being pulled away by her mother, but she refused to leave. "Officer, it's all a misunderstanding. We're not pressing charges. The stuff wasn't stolen. I gave it to him." Her mother was beyond frustrated, hitting Clara repeatedly. Amanda was getting worked up too. "Mom, don't you know how tough things are for Ethan's family? If we act like this, how are we any better than Leo's family? We can't kick people when they're down." This time Clara's mom didn't faint. She pulled Clara away while telling the police to take Ethan into custody. "How did I end up with such a foolish daughter? You're jeopardizing your entire future for some kid from the slums. How can he possibly compare to Leo? You're coming home with me right now. No more embarrassing yourself." The other patrons in the cafe were all watching the scene unfold. I was watching too. Clara was hoping I'd back up her story that she had given the items to him willingly, but I pretended not to hear. Her mother took my settlement card with a look of deep shame. "Leo, I'm so sorry. Thank goodness you called me in advance, or Clara would have made a huge mistake today." I smirked. "So ruining a lab's research isn't a big mistake, but losing a few million in valuables is—" I started to leave, but she stopped me. "Leo, you see, Clara was just misled. You've known each other for years. You can't just throw all that away, can you?" she pleaded. But Clara interrupted. "Mom, I will never reconcile with Leo. I can't stand the way he operates." Her stubbornness nearly made her mother faint again. Once they left, I drove home, planning to move into the new lab full-time to speed up my research. Little did I know my mom still had matchmaking on her mind. As soon as I tried to refuse, she cut me off. Son, just trust me on this one. The girl this time is a doctor. You two will definitely have things to talk about. Just meet her once. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. I couldn't stand to see her so hopeful, so I agreed to meet the woman just to get it over with. It turned out, she felt the exact same way. We exchanged contact information, agreed on a cover story for our parents, and went our separate ways. I moved into the lab and immersed myself in my work. Nearly a month later, when I finally emerged, I was hit with some shocking news. Ethan had gone online and accused Clara of giving him the money, but then driving him and his mother to despair, inciting the internet to turn on her. Before that, Clara had successfully threatened her mother into not pressing charges against him. His betrayal left Clara completely devastated. I learned all of this from my mother. On top of it all, Clara had been diagnosed with a rare illness. Her mom was spending a fortune on a special drug just to keep her alive. While I was having a meal at home one evening, Clara's mother showed up with Clara, seeking my help. She looked much older than the last time I had seen her, with streaks of gray in her hair. "Leo, aren't you researching special drugs? You have to save Clara. You two grew up together. Please don't let her die," she pleaded. Clara, with her hair shaved for treatment, wore an awkward wig and heavy makeup that didn't match her youthful features. "Leo, I don't want to die. I'm still so young. You're doing this research to help people. You'll save me, right?" Her eyes were red as she looked at me pitifully. Her mother, filled with despair, cried out to my parents, "Brother, sister, please help me persuade Leo. She's my only daughter. I can't bear to watch her go so early." It was a reminder of countless days past, of how many people have begged doctors and prayed to gods just to survive or to keep their loved ones alive. Many lives could have been saved, but her mistakes led to these consequences. Now, she had to face them. My ties with her were already severed, along with our family's connections. Your actions, dear aunt, ended any further contact between us. If the drug is successfully developed, it will be mass-produced for the public. Now, please go. I asked the butler to see them out. My parents watched from the side, their expressions indifferent. After they left, the house became much quieter. My mom sighed deeply. "That kid is really pitiful. So young, lost her father, and now she's so seriously ill." "You're too soft-hearted," my dad said with no expression, letting out a cold snort. "Pitiful people often have something hateful about them. Just remember they almost ruined our son." "I know that. Can't I just express some sympathy? You act like you know everything," my mom replied, and they started bickering back and forth. Middle-aged couples, living like this, kept things from getting lonely. It was an ordinary happiness that many families couldn't have. To appease both of our families, I started meeting up with the doctor from the arranged date, Maya, whenever I had free time. I didn't expect her to share the same niche hobby as me, playing a vintage strategy game. As we talked more, I realized we actually got along pretty well, so I decided to keep seeing her. As for Ethan, since I didn't reconcile, he was sentenced to prison. Even his appeal was pointless. The next time I saw him, he looked like a fugitive. He was wearing a black hoodie with a mask and a hat, even though it was winter. Only his eyes were visible. He was holding a small knife, his hand trembling non-stop, though I couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from fear. My new girlfriend, Maya, happened to be with me. "Leo," he hissed, "if you don't drop the charges and insist on ruining me, we'll die together. Is she your new girlfriend? Clara was a fool. She could have had so many more resources with you and helped me rise. I urged her to get back with you, but she refused. Now she's paying the price. Now say into this recording that you're dropping the charges and won't hold me accountable." Ethan waved the knife with a malevolent grin. I subtly slid my hand into my pocket, found the record button on my phone out of habit, and switched it on. You should go first, I told Maya, but before I could finish my sentence, she charged forward with a spinning kick. She sent the knife flying through the air and had him pinned to the ground in an instant. She smiled sheepishly at me. Being a doctor comes with its risks, so my dad had me learn karate. Don't worry, I'll protect you. It was clear in that moment that I was the weak one in the relationship. Okay, I said, a bit flushed. Wait a second, I'll call the cops. I pulled out my phone, the entire conversation safely recorded. It turned out my girlfriend was secretly a badass, just like in the comics, surprisingly innocent and adorable too. Ethan was now facing multiple charges, and this time he was going to be locked up for a very long time. I took the recording of his words to Clara and let her listen. She laughed and cried at the same time, but it was too late for regrets. She had finally come to her senses and was cooperating with her treatment in the hospital, waiting for a miracle drug to save her. Lucky for her, my new team was full of top minds, and with their help, we managed to redevelop the drug in just over a year. Clara's mother, who once looked down on the poor, had gotten involved in charity work, hoping to do some good for her daughter's sake. When she learned about the drug's success, she was eager to invest in its large-scale production. But Clara didn't make it through the winter. She took her own life. Had she just waited a little bit longer, she could have heard the good news from her mom. In the end, the older generation buried the young. Another year passed. I married Maya, and she gave birth to a lovely daughter. I want our baby to learn piano and dance. She'll definitely inherit your great features, with that high nose and big eyes, my wife said, holding our baby and dreaming about her future. What do you think, honey? She asked me. I thought for a moment and said, she should also learn karate. After all, it was how her mom won her dad's heart all those years ago.